You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
What's up, Ice Dog fans? Welcome to another episode of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. This is our season preview episode for the Niagara IceDogs. If you guys enjoy our content, make sure you're giving us a follow at Dog Pound Podcast on Twitter for all of our social media updates. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. And you can listen to us on many audio platforms, wherever you're getting your podcasts at. We are available on demand in audio form and also here on YouTube in video form. So if you guys are enjoying the video content, give us a like, smash that bell icon, and subscribe for all of our YouTube videos that get posted on the channel. As always, I'm your host of the Dog Pound Podcast. My name is Brandon Caputo. You can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13_AGM, and you can also follow my co-host. He is at JustKyle51. Kyle, the season is about to begin.
I know, and I'm back. Well, sort of. My voice is like still crapping out, but that's all right. It's just my battle with COVID-19 was nuts. It sucks. Like my voice is not like fully. And anyone that's had it, I guess, can attest to it. Everyone I've talked to that's had it, as you get that lingering cough like after weeks and weeks after even having it. But other than that, it hasn't taken out my excitement for the season.
Luckily, it was in preseason.
Yeah, I know, guy. If this was like middle of the season, that would have sucked. But no, I'm truly excited for this season again. It's basically like a fresh new. I can't say it's like having a new team, but like in a way, it's like having like a brand new team come into the OHL. Like you have your familiar faces, but the atmosphere feels new, obviously with the new management and everything. It feels like a fresh start for this team. And I think everyone's very excited to get things going, to see how they do during the regular season. Preseason's been promising, same with training camp. So we'll get into that today as well.
Yep. So on today's episode, in this first segment, we're going to go over the Twitter polls that we put out, getting your thoughts out there on what you think is going to happen this season with some Niagara IceDog players, and we're also going to just preview kind of what to look for, who's been good in the preseason, key additions, subtractions, things like that. Just kind of a quick overview of what we expect from the season for the Niagara IceDogs. And in segment 2 today, we're going to have a special sit-down interview with the owner and general manager of the Niagara IceDogs, Darren DeDobbelaer. As well, if time is on our side, I'm going to interview the head coach of the Niagara IceDogs, Daniel Fitzgerald.
Fitzy.
Yeah, if time constraints might limit that, but if we're able to get Coach Fitzgerald on as well, we will. But this sit-down interview with GM Darren DeDobbelaer is in segment 2 of today's episode. With that said, Kyle, let's jump right into it so we don't waste any more time for our fans here. And again, the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs. And if you guys are liking that, check out our page on the Niagara IceDogs website. If you go under the media tab, you can click on the Dog Pound Podcast page. And you can follow everything there. Our latest episode on YouTube will be there. You can follow our audio platforms. You can go to our Twitter. You can go to our personal Twitters. You can go to our website as well, armchairgmsports.com. Everything's going to be on there for you guys on the Niagara IceDogs website. So go and check that out as well. So with that said, if you're following Dog Pound Podcast, you would have seen a few weeks ago that we had a couple of Twitter polls posted up. And again, this was supposed to be the last episode, but Kyle obviously was dealing with his illness, and we had the great Ted Lehman, the radio voice of the IceDogs, fill in last week. So
shout outs to you, Teddy. And what did he say at the end there? He was like,
"Don't be aching it.
Don't be aching it." Yeah, I'll promise to work on my aching it.
Yes. So
this season there, Teddy.
So Ted filled in, and we saved the polls until Kyle came back. So with that said, Kyle, I'll go over the polls, and you kind of just react to the winners. I guess you could say winners. It's really just preseason popularity contest. And again, we're the dad's favorite podcast, so I'm sure some dads had some influence on some of these.
Yeah, the dads. All right, let's go.
Yep, and shout out to Andrew Usick's dad, who we also met. So we added another one to the list. Mr. Usick added to the list of dads that follow our podcast and use our podcast to follow, keep up with their kids, make sure they're not getting in any trouble. So, which of these returning IceDog players are due for a breakout season? Andrew Usick, Bryce Cook, Juan Copeland, or Alec Leonard? And we actually had a tie with Bryce Cook and Juan Copeland at 33.3%. So shout out to our buddy Juan Copeland there, who had to cut his hair because the IceDogs are now going with the corporate look. And Andrew Usick, the mullet is now gone. So two of the better haircuts on the team, and Usick and Juan Copeland have had the shave. But anyways, Kyle, thoughts on Bryce Cook and Juan Copeland? They look like they're the favorites for breakout player for returning IceDogs.
I think both of them, I think this poll kind of like made sense in its results because Bryce Cook and Juan Copeland are two guys who are looking at having that big breakout season this year after Bryce Cook finishing strong in his second half. Juan Copeland showing from training camp up until at the end of the season, he showed spurts of what he can do with the puck. He is a freaking lightning of a shot. So when he gets his chance, like he's a dangerous scorer on the ice. So both these guys, I think, are poised for a breakout season. Same with Andrew Usick, not taking anything out of him. We've seen a lot of improvement in his game in training camp this year. He's gained some size as well, which is great. So, and then Alec Leonard, obviously a highly drafted defenseman, a high-number drafted defenseman, looking for a breakout as well. But Cook and Copeland, I think, are the right picks here in this poll. But yeah, the Lou Lamoriello regime is in Niagara, and you're going to see a lot of fresh cuts, and I'm going to assume the beers will be at least cleaned.
No long lettuce in the back anymore.
Long lettuce. If we're going to put hockey terms on this one, no lettuce. No.
Yeah, and Kyle, you don't have to worry about that. I mean,
I haven't had to worry about that in a long time.
But yeah, so Bryce Cook and Juan Copeland both had great second halves of the season, and then on the back end, Usick and Leonard did a great job when the IceDogs were severely undermanned on the back end at many times last year. So look for both of them to really grow after their rookie seasons. Next poll, which IceDogs player away at an NHL training camp will lead the team in scoring? Pano Femus with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Aiden Castle with the Minnesota Wild, and Pasquale Zito with the Detroit Red Wings. And we got word the day of recording this that Pasquale Zito was on his way back to Niagara after his experience in Detroit. So Pano Femus actually won this poll with 45.9%. Zito was 37.8%, and Castle was 16.2%.
I think Femus and Zito could have tied this one as well. Like both those guys are coming into the season. I mean, Femus has the chip on his shoulder, obviously, from this past draft and looking to have a really big bounce back year after a rough season last year. And he's going to be poised to, really show what he can do out there. And one of those cases would be to put the puck back in the net. We kind of see him more as a playmaker side. If we see a scoring side out of him, I think that would be really nice to see. Pascal Zito, again, it's tough with him because I didn't really obviously we didn't really pay attention to him last year, right? We saw what he could do with first team in the playoffs with Windsor because they went pretty far. Yeah, I believe they faced the Bulldogs in the OHL final. So, I would say be one of those two, if not both. I think both of them are gonna at least try to lead the team, but maybe it'll be someone else. Maybe it will be a guy like Aiden Castle out of nowhere. Maybe a guy like Kevin He or Nolan Dan. Nolan Dan looked phenomenal in the preseason game we just recently seen. Yeah, he showed spurts that when he can shoot the puck, he can be dangerous out there. But for this poll's sake, I can't. I'd say it's either a Femus or a Zito for me. For me, it's tied between those two.
Yeah, and Zito's the only one that's actually been drafted by an NHL team. Femus and Castle were both camp invites for the Leafs and the Wild, but I think that's a great experience for all three of them. I think even Aiden Castle's going to come back from being at the Wild camp and seeing, what he has to do to take that next step. So I think it's going to be great for all three, but I could see Femus, Zito, or Zito really standing out this year for sure. I think they're going to be two of the catalysts of this team moving forward, and Femus really wants to prove that he can show that he's a great two-way center in this league. So moving on to the next poll, which IceDogs offseason acquisition will have the biggest impact? And again, there were two players for one of them because they technically came in the same trade, so I kind of saw this coming. But it was Pasquale Zito and Nathan Rebo. Matthew Pappas, Nolan Dan, or David Jesus. And the winners of the poll were Zito and Rebo with 43.6%. Pappas was second at 28.2%, and David Jesus at 25.6%.
This one's a tough poll because if you look up and down this poll, any one of these guys can be that big. I think literally all five of them could be a big impact player. Literally, like all five of them, because from what I see in training camp, each one of them brings something to the IceDogs, which is what was needed. Like they have Rebo has shown his aggressive side through preseason, which was great to see. And you need a guy with some grit, a little bit of grit back there on D. Pascal Zito again, like he was off to camp really throughout the preseason, so we really didn't get to see a lot of him. We saw him in training camp. Pappas. I wouldn't say he's going to be our Gushin and be a replica of Gushin because Gushin was like on another level, but Pappas has that ability to fit into that spot. Nolan Dan, like I mentioned earlier, has that when he shoots the puck, he shoots the damn puck. And then David Jesus back there is just a good, solid, big guy on the back end that has a lot of offensive upside to him. So really any one of these guys, or even if not all of them, are going to, I think, make a big impact. So for me, I'm picking every single one of them this would be a tie all the way down for me.
Yeah, they've all been big-time acquisitions, and everybody except for Nolan Dan came from a very good playoff team that the IceDogs are trying to be this upcoming season. Matthew Pappas leading the IceDogs in preseason points, which we'll get into. But, Nathan Rebo recently named an assistant captain as well to, obviously, Captain Landon Cato.
Yeah, he looked good. Like, he showed a lot of grit, which I really like, is like, you think about it, like the IceDogs over the years, like who were the players that brought grit to the back end, right? It was guys like Landon Cato. Landon Cato is more fitting the leadership role this year, right? He's going to have his aggressive and physicalness too as well. But I'm talking about the guys like a Mason Howard back there or Dakota Betts, right? Like you kind of have to fill in those roles, and I think Nathan Rebo fits into that spot perfectly for them. And David Jesus, I think, could be like that as well. I know there's more offensive side to his game, but Rebo, really did impress me for that aspect of his game throughout the preseason and training camp.
Absolutely. So the next poll is which returning IceDog player is most likely to be a member of the team's leadership group along with Captain Landon Cato? Pano Famous, Daniel Michaud, not to be mistaken by my cod, thanks to a certain Erie broadcaster.
My cod, just like I always think of like the fish cod.
I know. Hopefully he does. Hopefully he takes down the Steelheads on Thursday. That would be an interesting, good article name. But yes, Daniel Michaud, Rodwin Denicio, and Brendan Cirizzotti. Pano Famous won this one pretty handily, 54.8%. Michaud and Denicio were 14.3%, and Brendan Cirizzotti was actually second at 16.7%.
Yeah, Famous kind of. I mean, it's obvious Famous for me. I think it's going to be Famous and Zito, to be honest. Famous, Zito, Rebo would probably be your 3As, and Cato is your assistant. So, I mean, there's other guys that would fit that role as well, but to me, just from what I see, me personally, it's Famous, Zito, Rebo, and Cato.
We're not in the room, guys, so we don't have all the answers. So if we get this one wrong, it's not.
The players are listening. Don't yell at us. Okay?
Yeah.
We already had Pano yelling at us in training camp.
Yeah.
We didn't yell at us. He was like, it's too early for us.
Yeah. We were there bugging them. But yeah, whatever Fitzy decides, I'm sure it'll be for the betterment of the team. So moving on to but I like all four of those guys. I think Cirizzotti and Michaud, they'll have a full year now with the IceDogs as opposed to coming over at the deadline. And Denicio coming off that strong World Juniors he had for Team Swiss. So I like all four of those guys coming back this year. And then lastly, which IceDogs rookie is most likely to make a big impact this season? Ooh. The aforementioned Kevin He, the Tennessee native Cole Bishop, and Andrew Vermeulen. Kevin He won this one with 68%. And again, can't really blame him. He's been dynamic so far in the preseason.
God, has he ever looked good out there, man? He is quick. He handles the puck well. He's got fantastic hockey sense. That was the big thing that stuck out for me with Kevin He, is he knew that where the play was going at every end of the ice, even in the neutral zone, which is huge because I found the IceDogs last year struggled a lot in that neutral zone. So if Kevin He can bring that step up for the Dogs in there, I think this guy's going to be a great player, and I think he's, like, I know it's preseason, but he was listed in the bottom 6 throughout the preseason. I think this is a guy we're going to see in the top 6 very, very quickly as the beginning of the season goes, because he's a big impact player, I think, for them.
It's funny, we were walking around the arena last game, and shout out to our newly found friend, Cam No Sleeves Gaming on Twitter.
Shout outs to you, Cam.
Yeah, shout outs to him.
Got to get him on the pod.
Yeah, he's a Patriots fan.
So even better.
But he's a Sharks fan, so I can understand that part. But anybody, including him, but even other people we went up to, they said, "Have you guys seen Kevin He? Like, he's standing out to everybody that watches that's watching the game. Like, he's clearly out there to make an impact." So I think that so far it's working out as a great draft pick. Again, it's preseason, but you don't want to get too hyped. But it's been good to see from a rookie like Kevin He stepping into this lineup. And again, he's going to have to be able to accept the physical aspect of the game when teams go after him. But I really like what I see so far of Kevin He. I want to quickly mention we went over a lot of the preseason stuff last week with Ted as far as like the actual games go. But 25 goals in 6 games, Kyle,
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty impressive for a team that really, outside of Daniil Gushin, struggled to score goals last year.
Yeah. That's a very big improvement, and almost, you probably have to say, night and day difference from what we saw at the rink last year through that rough season. So it looks like the goals are there. I know it's preseason, right? They're facing, obviously, teams, too, that had a lot of probably camp roster players, guys that are not going to be in the team. They're better players probably at camp, but regardless of that, that's a good sign regardless, right? That they're scoring goals, and which is something that they desperately needed last year. I mentioned it at the last preseason game. Like, I'm hoping that they improve the power play, because I know what they showed on paper, the IceDogs that were in the top for power play, but what I saw at the rink was a whole different story.
Yeah. They were somehow like, I think they were 12th in power play last year.
So shocking to me how they were 12th in power play last year, and it was like every power play last year didn't go anywhere. I'm like, did they all those? Was it just the road they were scoring? Like, did not? Okay, if it was the road last year, sure. But like, if you're gonna have the power play at home, score the damn, put the puck in the net. God, what are you doing?
I know, but definitely looks better so far through the preseason. But moving on, that was it for the Twitter poll. So again, we'll be putting a lot of those up for the episodes. Want to hear your guys' thoughts on the IceDogs this year. So follow us at Dog Pound Podcast for all the updates on that and when all the Twitter polls do come out. So
yeah, make sure you're following it, because we got. I showed Brandon today. We're going to be stepping up our game with the Twitter, and I've designed some nice graphics throughout the home games this year. So
for updates.
Oh yeah, you guys are gonna be very impressed with us this year.
Yeah,
fans of the show.
Exactly.
Talking about you guys out there,
and
all for you guys, the fans of the show,
and the Joey Costanzos and Juan Copelands of the world. Shout out to you guys. But moving on here, Kyle, let's quickly touch on just the preseason stats so far. Like we mentioned, somebody's going to have to replace Daniil Gushin's 41 goals in 50. Only played 51 games.
I don't think
last
anyone.
year.
I mean, I wish someone's going to do better than that, but like that's a lot to like live up to. But hey, if someone's going to do it, someone's going to do it, and I love to see it.
And Matthew Pappas, the aforementioned in one of the polls, 8 points in 6 preseason games, so that's got to be encouraging for the former Guelph Storm player coming over and trying to make an impact in this top 6.
Yeah, exactly. And Sarazati up there, too. I mean, he was right behind Gushin last year with scoring. If we didn't have Gushin last year, Sarazati would have led our team in scoring. So, he's still showing that he's going to be on the score sheet a lot, Brandon Sarazati. He just knows how to be in the perfect position in the offensive zone. So,
he was actually the Iron Man last year. He played over the maximum games played because he played for Ottawa and then for Niagara. Right. So he actually played over 68 games last year.
Jeez. Anyways, but as we mentioned before, like I even mentioned it, like Matthew Pappas might be the guy that steps into Daniil Gushin's role. And sure enough, he's leading preseason in scoring, just like Gushin led the team in scoring all of last year. Again, he's not going to be the same, I guess, caliber player. You could probably develop into maybe one. We'll see. But Daniil Gushin was on another level. Like last year, it almost got to a point where it looked like men playing amongst boys out there. Like he was just ahead of the game, and just went through everybody basically. But other than that, we talked about it. The scoring was up. It's a lot. We saw a lot of goals more in this preseason than we did a lot last year in a chunk of games. So good signs. Really, really good signs.
And then on the back end, I think that's important too. You lose Dakota Betts, your captain, to overage, and then you trade away Isaac Enright, who was a former first-round pick of this team, you're going to have to replace them on the back end, and I think they've done a good job with that. You bring in Rebo, like you mentioned, that grit and sandpaper type defenseman. David Jesus comes in, and I really like the way that this top six is rounding out. Again, it's a shame that Lucas Littlejohn and Sammy Douglas-Najim aren't currently on the roster, but I do like the way that this top six is kind of rolling. Yeah. You have Rebo, you have Cato, you have Denicio, Jesus, and then you have Leonard and Usick as maybe a bottom pair. I really like the way that top six looks.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. You see David Jesus was the leading defenseman in scoring for this preseason. And that goes back to what I said about him. He's a big guy back there. He can shut down a lot of defensive plays, but then he can also has a lot of offensive upside where he's racking up five assists in 5 games, right? And 6 points with the 1 goal. So, David Jesus, again, that top 4 of Jesus, Denicio,
Cato and Rebo
is a solid, I think, top 4 for the Ice Dogs to roll with this season. We'll see how it goes, though. You never know, right? I mean, injuries happen, trades do happen, regardless of how fans or anybody wants to feel about trades. This is a different ball game here in the OHL, so who knows, right? We'll see. And
Ryan Van Netten has stepped in for 6 games on the defensive side of things too. He's kind of flown under the radar a little bit as a free agent signing, but who knows? He can be a valuable fill-in guy for this team moving forward. And they've obviously wanted to see a lot of him because he's played in all 6 preseason games so far.
Right, exactly.
And then moving into the back end, Kyle, and it's been interesting. The Owen Flores trade definitely had its critics out there with the amount of with giving up a second-round pick for this guy when you have Costanzo and Rosenzweig. Again, don't know what they're going to do with the 3 goaltenders, but since Flores has come in, he's impressed, especially the last game in the shootout win, I guess you could say, against Hamilton, where the team just kind of fell apart in the last minute 30.
See, I can't even blame him for that.
No,
because,
it wasn't him.
He was solid throughout the entire game up until the team fell apart right at the end because he got peppered for 1, but 2, he looked great. He looked fantastic in the net. He filled the net a lot. He challenged the puck. He's proven that this trade from London is something to keep an eye on with Owen Flores. And, there's probably going to be a healthy competition between the 3 goalies. I'm not sure if they plan on carrying 3 goalies for this season, or are they just going to do the 2 and send 1 down? I'm not really too sure how that's going to work. But, man, Owen Flores did kind of prove kind of his worth in this preseason, man. He competed, and he kind of outbeat the 2 regular IceDog goalies in stats out of the 2 games he played.
Yeah, and I think it's a good, healthy competition to have with those 3 guys elevating each other. OHL website is messed up because they did not play 10 games in the preseason. I don't know what that confused the heck out of me. But yeah, Flores a .923 save percentage and a .250 goals against average in the 2 games that he had started. And then Rosenzweig was 1-1 with an .875 and a .401. Again, a couple of rough games for Rosie getting back into it. And Costanzo, again, he was in there for one of those tough losses that they had. But again, Flores has looked good in the 2 games that he's played. But again, Costanzo and Rosenzweig have proved last year that they are definitely OHL quality goaltenders, and they faced a heck of a lot of shots last year. They got peppered by almost every team they played against. So whatever they decide to do, whatever one goalie maybe they decide to move, I'm confident with what they have.
It's not bad if they do want to do the split squad or the split time thing. Like a lot of NHL teams do it with. If they end up having 2 good goalies, right, they'll split it down the middle. Or, I've seen the OHL do that before as well. What if it's Flores and Rosenzweig, right, and they share the load? Like, they each play, how many games in an OHL season? 68. So, and what if both of them play 30 games? Like, what if it's something like that, right? If they can both prove that they're both good starting goaltenders, what's the harm in having? I know it kind of harms Costanzo in this point, but I kind of have faith that the management and coaching staff know what they're doing, and you know what? It's good. Like you said, it's good to have healthy competition in the back end. That's a good sign. It would be a little bit of a bad sign if there's only one clear-cut guy and they were unsure of a backup.
Yeah. You
don't want to go out of training camp and out of preseason with an unsure backup.
None of these 3 guys have looked out of place, that's for sure.
No. So we have a really good thing with the goaltenders right now.
And that's what they did last season. They started last season with 3 goaltenders, and they ended up moving Tucker Tynan because Rosenzweig had emerged, and Costanzo proved that even as a rookie he could go in there. So they could start the season, and maybe a team really is in desperate need of a goaltender, and the IceDogs are able to make an acquisition. But if not, we'll see how these three guys run with the season. But
like I said, guys, like any fans listening, it's the OHL. It's a different ball game here. If don't be upset if they have to trade one of these three guys. The shelf life, like the shelf life in the OHL, it's not like the NHL where we can sign these kids to 10-year contracts or 8-year contracts, and they're not allowed to go anywhere.
Yep. So, with that said, Kyle, let's move on. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to quickly touch up on the forward group, or if we've kind of basically went over that in the Twitter polls with a lot of the forward group. Since our last recording, Dylan Rubrick did get traded, and I know, Kyle, that you've kind of had a love-hate relationship with Dylan Rubrick. A lot of potential as a big guy, just never seemed like he developed into that mold of a dominant power forward in the league as the tallest guy in the OHL, but just didn't kind of...
It was a shame. Like he was a 6'5", 6'6" player, playing like he's 5'9". Like I just wish he used a lot more. He used his size to advantage a lot more, and it drove me nuts a lot of games last year watching him. I'm like, oh my God, he could have, if he just used his body in this one play, or if he's, kind of stepped up in this one play, it was just driving me absolutely up the wall. But, good luck in his future endeavors. And, we'll see him back in Niagara when it was him and, was it Butler?
Cam Butler.
From Oshawa come back in town, so we'll see.
The former IceDog crew, which they'll be in on Thursday with Mississauga with Enright, Birdie, and Ryan Struthers. But, Kyle, before we get to the power rankings, I just quickly wanted to mention the IceDogs and their new affiliation with the Brantford 99ers. They've obviously acquired a lot of guys for late-round draft picks that they can move up and down and use for depth that either have played for the 99ers or currently do. So what do you think of this affiliation, and how do you think it's going to work out for this team?
I don't know how anybody could be shocked. Like I don't understand how people are losing their minds over why this is happening. Like they just hired all the management that came from the Brantford 99ers. Why wouldn't they do that? Why? Like it's a smart tactic. They're going to trade for these players who I'm assuming a lot of these coaches and management have coached and managed in the Brantford 99ers, so they know. It's not like they're just, oh, he played for Brantford. I know nothing about him. We didn't coach him, but we're going to trade for him because he played for Brantford. That's not what's happening here. These are strategic trades because they've coached the players and they know what the players are about and they know what they can bring to the IceDogs. So that's why they went out and acquired these players who played for Brantford. The fact that people just sit there and think, oh, it's because he played for Brantford, they're trained for him, they know nothing else about him, is you're delusional if you think that way. This is a great affiliation. I'm okay with it. You know what, Brendan? I'm going to wake up the next day and I'm going to have my morning coffee and I'm going to feel great. You know why? Because I'm not sitting there hating on an OHL team having an affiliation with a JHL team. People just let people piss in their cornflakes and they get mad about it. It's beyond me. But regardless, it's a great partnership. It makes all the sense in the world. I don't understand why people hate it.
The familiarity factor, I think, is key. You've seen these players before. And again, the new coaching staff that's going in there, they obviously have a good rapport with them because you're assuming that they know what the types of players that the new coaching staff that used to be the Brantford staff, they know what they expect out of the players, and they know what types of players that they want to develop into the OHL players. Every team has some sort of affiliation with somebody. You're telling me that the London Knights don't have an affiliation that they have used and had. Every team needs a pipeline, even junior teams. You're going to send these guys down. You want to keep an eye on them. You want to make sure their development is going well. So I think it's a good thing for the IceDogs. Again, and it wasn't a big shock when they finally announced it. But again, the fact that they actually have the formal announcement, I think is good for people to know kind of where they stand with that.
I got nothing else to say. I'm just like, why people let this ruin their day is beyond me. I will never know.
And to end this first segment of today's season preview episode, let's just quickly go over the CHL top 10 preseason power rankings. And again, we're not going to really touch on any of the Q or the WHL teams, but quickly, the Winnipeg Ice, number 1, Quebec Ramparts, Seattle Thunderbirds. The first OHL team is the Guelph Storm at 4, Kamloops Blazers at 5, Gatineau Olympique at 6, Flint Firebirds at 7, and the Mississauga Steelheads at 8, Sherbrooke Phoenix at 9, and the Moose Jaw Warriors
at 10.
Why is
Phoenix spelt like what font did they use to make the O and the E together?
Maybe it's like one word now. But as far as the top 3 in the OHL goes, it looks like it's Guelph, Mississauga, or Guelph, Flint, and Mississauga, which is interesting because the IceDogs play Mississauga on opening night, and then they play in Flint on the weekend. So they're going to get 2 of the top 3 teams projected in the Ontario Hockey League this year.
Just saying, CHL, if we win both those teams, put the IceDogs in the top 10. Why are the IceDogs not up there if we're going to beat them, right? I'm just saying, if we go 2-0, I better see them in the rankings.
And again, I'm sorry, I don't know how Hamilton isn't on there. I know they lost Mason McTavish most likely, but I mean,
it wasn't their whole team.
They're the defending OHL champions. Like, I don't know how that they don't even get recognition on this list. But again, who am I to say that? But the IceDogs do, while we're on the subject, do get a TSN game this year.
Oh.
Very interesting. So again, it's nationally broadcasted, but again, it could be on either the TSN app or tsn.ca. Regardless, Niagara's playing a TSN game against, of course, the London Knights coming into town October 27th, which I put in quotations as the Sam Dickinson Bowl. Again, the kid's going to get booed, but like Ted mentioned last week, he's basically building the future of this team with all the draft picks they got. So maybe we should be thanking Sam Dickinson in the long run, kind of like we did back in the day with Lucas Lesio, getting all those draft picks for him and building the IceDogs team. So
it'd be fine to, we should do that for one episode. Like, make sure we go and do the research and come back and see who the IceDogs took with those picks.
From Sam Dickinson trade?
No, not that one. From the other trade.
Oh, I'm sure Ted could get us that information. He's like the encyclopedia.
Because that would be a really cool trade tree to look at and see what it turned into. So, maybe people can be less mad at Dickinson and be more grateful for the picks we just got from London. But yeah, TSN game was just fun. So that's cool to see. You can watch the IceDogs from home on TSN if you can't make the game. If you can make the game, make it. I imagine that'll be a sold-out game. It is a Thursday night game, which is tough, but again, IceDogs do a very good job with their game day. They do a lot of good job getting groups in there and to filling that arena, and just fans all over come to enjoy an IceDog game even on a Thursday night. So that'll be cool to see. The IceDogs kick off this Thursday with Mississauga, which is going to be fun. Just seeing the former IceDog players coming back in. One who's a big fan of the show, which is. No, it wasn't Struthers. It was who was our big fan of the show last year? Why am I blanking on his name?
Cam Peters.
Cam Peters, that's it. I miss that kid.
He's playing at Nipissing University.
Yeah. Shout out to him if he's listening. Probably not.
Listening to the Nipissing podcast.
What?
I don't know.
But you're going on the road trip this weekend.
Flint and Sag, the Michigan roadie, getting it over with at the beginning of the year.
Have fun there.
Apparently some of the better media rooms in the Ontario Hockey League.
Oh, okay. So you have to relay or send me pictures.
Yeah. But no, London, I think that game's going to be really interesting. Owen Flores hopefully will not have his green equipment by then, because that was the one thing that I did have a criticism of the kid was his London Knights equipment's got to go.
I hope he starts that game. If he's still there by then, I hope he does start that game. That'd be great to have him go play his old team and win.
Yeah.
Like in Niagara, that would be a really big game. So
especially with Sam Dickinson making his, you can't even say return because he never reported, but his debut in Niagara. And the IceDogs, obviously, with their hatred for the London Knights over the years with the 2012 and 2016 OHL championships, losing in the finals to them. It's always a big game against London. And this is actually the first time that the two teams have played since that unfortunate Tucker Tynan injury.
Oh, right.
So this is actually the first full game we'll have against London in almost 4 years, essentially. So
that's nuts.
It's going to be a raucous crowd, I assume, for that game. But it'll be really interesting. And like I said, it's funny that they're getting 2 of the top 3 OHL teams on this top 10 list. The IceDogs are going up against them in the first week of the season. So I think that's a good kind of benchmark for them to kind of see where they're at.
Right. Yeah, no, it looks like a hell of a year. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule now, too. Like the one thing is the New Year's Eve game's not in Niagara this year. They're in Erie for that one.
What a way to spend a New Year's. Sorry.
Right, I know. Right? Erie, Pennsylvania. Woohoo. Other than that, I know there's a few special event games I can't see from the calendar here. I have to go to the graphic, but yeah, I can't wait to get a full season underway.
Yeah, full season.
Hopefully, fingers crossed and knock on wood, but like a full season playing the teams we haven't played in like over 2 years, which is going to be awesome to see. I know me and Brandon are planning for some road trips this year as well to keep you guys covered. I know Brandon travels more than I do, but I'm going to try to get on a lot of those road trips as well, and then we can provide more content for you guys, more podcast content, more social media content. So again, like we say all the time, like make sure you guys are following the Dog Pound Podcast on Twitter.
And Kyle's going to have the TikTok going soon.
Hopefully. I'm still learning. I'm not like I'm never like I've gone on TikTok to like scroll, but I've never sat there and tried to I've never made a TikTok before. Well, I imagine it's probably similar to the Instagram story. I'm hoping if it's similar to that, maybe I'll ask our social media people that can teach me. But give me a quick lesson.
But regardless of that, season starting on Thursday, we can't wait for it. And again, look forward to the second part of today's episode where we're interviewing in person. Again, we're going to be doing a lot more of that in person at the rink stuff this year with the general manager and owner of the Niagara IceDogs, Mr. Darren DeDobbelaer.
Yeah. Huff him with him. Say hi for me. Even though we said hi from last preseason game. But, other than that, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this season. I can't wait to see how this team goes. And, again, like I said in the beginning of the episode, it's a fresh start here in Niagara, fresh coaching, fresh management. It just feels good. The atmosphere, and again, even though it was preseason, the atmosphere in the game day felt a lot better and a lot more positive, and you can see it on the players' faces from preseason this year, so even in training camp. So I'm excited for this year. Even when we're talking to the players in the press box, everyone just seemed generally more like positive and excited about this year and really can't wait to get this going. Yep,
and can't wait to hear the DeDobbelaer plan in segment 2 today with the interview. We're finally getting to talk to the general manager of the Niagara IceDogs, Darren DeDobbelaer, and if we have time, head coach Daniel Fitzgerald, but we'll be talking to him lots during the season as well. So thank you for listening to the first part of today's episode, and stay tuned for the in-person interview on the Dog Pound Podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Welcome back, IceDog fans, to Dog Pound Podcast here. My name is Brandon Caputo, and I'm joined now by the head coach of the Niagara IceDogs, Mr. Daniel Fitzgerald. Daniel, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us just before the season starts. I'm sure you're excited to finally get things going here with the regular season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brandon, and thrilled to be on the podcast, and we're really excited. We're very excited to get going, and it's a fun time of year, and after a long camp, we can't wait to drop the puck for real.
Perfect. So I know your playing career lasted from 2004 to 2013. At what point during your playing career did you really begin to think about life after you hung up the skates and really started to think that coaching would be something right up your alley that you wanted to start to transition into?
I think last few years, it was pretty obvious I wasn't going to be making a career as a player. It was, as I was moving into teaching and doing a bit of coaching to help augment my resume to get into teachers college and then, get onto boards. And it was an easy transition for me. I had a lot of knowledge that I could share, and I found so much joy in it. And to be able to have it as my career now is it's a dream, really. It's the best way to connect with people, and I think to impart some wisdom on these players on and off the ice, and you get to feel the juice of the game still. It's fantastic.
And I know you did play one season at Niagara University, so you actually came down through Niagara. So how cool was that, kind of coming back full circle, coming back down to the Niagara region here?
Yeah, I have a lot of connection to the Niagara region. It started at Niagara University, and my time there was fantastic. I made some lifelong friends, and we were a very competitive team at the time. Coming back, I taught in the Niagara region, taught for the Niagara Catholic District School Board, and it's really come full circle now being back here in the Niagara region. It's a fantastic place with great people, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of it.
you started with the Dundas Blues and the Cambridge Winterhawks, and then you were down here again in Niagara with the St. Catharines Falcons, and then most recently with the 99ers.
Yep.
What did you take from all those coaching experiences that you're now going to take with you as you transition here to the Ontario Hockey League in the next chapter in your coaching career?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine, actually, another coach, and it really is, it's the same thing everywhere. It's all about the connection with the players, connection with the staff, connection to the fans. It's all about people and building relationships, and that just doesn't change no matter what level you're at. It's about changing lives in a way. It's about getting those connections and making sure that we're developing the right person. The right player is important too, but really the right person. And we take that very, very seriously. And it's something I've really focused on my entire coaching career and brought that with me here.
And how important was it for you to assemble a staff that is on the same page with you, but also being able to give input and kind of being that collaborative, transparent, healthy kind of relationship with your coaching staff, with your players, and just not being like the Daniel Fitzgerald way, and kind of having that collaborative effort with all your staff? Yeah,
you hit the nail on the head. It's a collaborative group in there. We're very transparent with each other. We're not afraid to speak our mind. Brandon, Andrew, Damon, Jason, they all bring different perspectives and valued perspectives. And then you go beyond that to Josh and Dan. They bring so much to the table as well. Everybody's on the same page when we leave that room, and that's what I'm so grateful for. It doesn't matter whose idea it is. If it's the right one, we're going to run with it. We really do believe in a collaborative culture in that coaching room, and it's so energizing being in there. It's the best. This is such a great staff, and we feel so supported by Wes and Darren. Those are two men who really value what we do,
right.
Really care about, a positive culture within the hockey side, the hockey operations of the organization. And, it obviously precipitates into our room. So we feel so supported by them.
And even though it's only been the preseason so far, what maybe has been the one thing that has stuck out to you that you kind of weren't expecting at the OHL level that you've kind of, had to adjust to, or something that kind of caught you off guard since you've started coaching here 6 games into the preseason?
Yeah, I don't think anything's really caught me off guard. We adjust all the time. That's what our job as coaches is to adjust, whether it's in game, whether it's practice to practice, whether it's day to day, week to week. We're learning the players. We're learning the way that they play. We're learning the way that they learn. It's valuable for us to get this time. Having a full month of training camp is invaluable. It can feel long because you want to play meaningful games, but we've learned so much about the players, and we've been able to adjust and adapt to their different learning styles and their different playing styles. And for us, we're just gathering information and putting the best product on the ice we can. And so far, we're continuing to learn. It's going to take more and more time, but every team's going through that.
Right. And how much have you kind of how confident are you that you and the staff have prepared the players for the grind of the OHL season? It can be a grind once you get into the winter months there, and the trips to Sudbury, and those are long days, and it takes a lot to get those players kind of motivated to get up and into those dog days, pun intended, of January and February. So how prepared do you think that you've got them mentally and physically, and are you confident that's something that will be a successful one?
Yeah, we're super confident. I mean, if you can survive our camp, you can survive a OHL regular season. It was a grind. We've created dog days. The effort from Paul Ferry and Mike Christou and David Pandolfi to prepare the guys off the ice, on the fitness side, on the nutrition side, on the health side, and then for us on the ice, in the video room, mentally, behaviorally, we've pushed them. We've pushed them a lot, and they've responded tremendously. So I have there's no doubt in my mind that this team's prepared for a long season. We're going to hit bumps. We're going to hit rocky patches, but I think we're going to be resilient enough to handle them.
And with the recent announcement of the Brantford 99ers being now your affiliate team for the Niagara IceDogs. Just how much does that excite you from a coaching perspective? Just knowing that the players will have some familiarity, and from top to bottom in the organization, that open level of communication between you and the Brantford staff to really know what these players are, what you're looking for from them to really get them to the next level, and kind of having that good organizational depth from top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Scott Thompson in Brantford, the head coach there. Scott and I worked together for 4 years previous to this. He's a brilliant hockey mind. He cares about his players. I know he's going to develop his hockey players because he's done it in the past with us and even before that. The fact that Darren has ownership of both teams obviously puts us in a position where we're able to control the development of players. We're able to AP players at our at our wish, and it's so invaluable to have that. We're not walking on eggshells. We're not worried about, any sort of relationship fracture because everybody's working on the same page. And I have full trust in Scott. He's going to do a fantastic job, has already. We talk, almost every other day. He's such a great person, such a great coach, and those kids are in great hands.
Yeah, and that affiliation is important to have in a developmental league, as we always mention.
Absolutely.
So, looking ahead to the start of the season on Thursday, you scored 25 goals in 6 games in the preseason. So, just how much are you looking to build off that? And you mentioned in training camp the puck possession game is something that you're really trying to emphasize with the group. So how have you been trying to instill that into the guys leading up to the regular season? Yeah,
in the style that we play and the way that we practice, we want to have the puck and we want to score goals. The more that we have the puck, the quicker we get it back from the other team, the more opportunities we are going to have to score goals. Scoring goals, I don't think is going to be an issue for us. Sure, we'll slump here and there. Yeah. We have so many guys who are so capable. Up and down the lineup, we have threats. Which is awesome. It's going to be hard to match up against us. And having said that, we have defensemen who can chip in as well. And everybody's playing connected. We're all working together. We're all playing together. That connectivity is really important for us in order to have success. And we're starting to see quite a bit of it.
And with all the moves the management staff made during the offseason, a new swagger with this team, the town's excited, the community's ready to embrace another winning team here in Niagara once again. Just how ready are you to get the season underway, and how much of this whirlwind of an offseason kind of, making you excited that this is kind of, all that hard work and all those long sleepless nights have kind of got you to this moment, and it's really going to begin the regular season and the start of your OHL coaching career and a new start for this 2022-23 IceDogs team.
Yeah, I mean, not too many sleepless nights. I have full faith in Darren and everything that he does. He's put together a fantastic roster for me to work with. We have a new energy around the team. Obviously, everything's new for everybody, and I think it's so exciting for us as a staff. I think for the players, we're in a process now of now the proof's in the pudding. Like, can we show it, right? Can we answer the bell? And we're so excited to face that challenge, and it starts on Thursday night, and it doesn't end for a long time. So we're in it together. We're in it for the long haul. We're so excited to get going.
And lastly, just with the competition level that you've seen so far at training camp and in the preseason, you've had three players go to NHL camps with Femus in Toronto, Castle in Minnesota, and obviously Squalizito with Detroit. And then the great competition you've had in net, obviously the move today to move Costanzo to Windsor because of how great that goalie competition is. And then on the back end as well, there's a lot of good competition going on there, even with some players that you wouldn't have expected to be cut, but were cut because just the competition's been so good. So how just excited are you at how the competition level has gone to another level here with all three aspects of your team?
Yeah, in all phases, there's been a ton of compete. And that's only going to make us a better hockey team. That's going to make us better hockey players. Now are we able to dig in and compete against the other teams? It can be not easy to go up against your buddies, but you know that they're going to put their arm around you at the end of the day, and you're still going to be friends. Now, can you get that mean in you? Can you get that nasty? Are you okay with not being liked by the other team? We're going to find out. I think our guys are going to answer that challenge the right way.
Perfect. Thank you very much to the head coach of the Niagara IceDogs, Daniel Fitzgerald, for taking some time to join us right before the start of the regular season, and we look forward to talking much more once we get started with the season and post-game.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Brandon.
Thank you. Brandon Caputo signing off for the Dog Pound Podcast. the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs. The Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs. My name is Brandon Caputo. I'm pleased to be joined today for the first time on the show by the owner and general manager of the Niagara IceDogs, Mr. Darren DeDobbelaer. Darren, thanks so much for coming on today to preview the season for the IceDogs.
Appreciate you having me here. Thank you.
Perfect. So I know you started off with the Simcoe Storm, and then obviously with the OJHL and the GOJHL with the Bandits and the 99ers. So have you always kind of wanted to look into owning an OHL franchise or owning a team in a higher league? Like how did you kind of get into wanting to own a professional or a junior hockey team?
I've always dabbled in it. I've always looked, sometimes seriously, sometimes not as seriously. But when this opportunity came up with the IceDogs and, the facility and just the fan base and the region and everything, it just felt right, and it just felt like something I really wanted to do.
And how are you, Darren DeDobbelaer, the one to be able to get the great one, Wayne Gretzky, back into wanting to be a part of a junior hockey team? How did that kind of just go about, and how were you able to kind of pique his interest to get back into hockey as the most recognizable name in the sport?
So actually, I have to give my accountant, Darren Cleary, full credit for that, because I called him one day, and I said that, we got another project to work on. He said, "What are you buying?" And I said, "Well, I want to look at buying an OHL team, the Niagara IceDogs." And he didn't say anything, and then the next day, because Darren's also the accountant for Wayne Gretzky and his foundation, he called me the next day, and he said 99 wants a piece. So the rest was history.
And what has the partnership been like, and how do you kind of see it evolving in the future in a positive way for the IceDogs, this community, and the OHL as a whole?
So Wayne wanted to be he wanted to be more than just a poster boy. He's very busy, so I don't know how many times he'll show up here, but he wanted to be someone that I could lean on him, that he could call me, he could call the coaches. He didn't want to just be a poster boy to try to drive sales. So that's important.
Okay. So you've been able to kind of get your feet wet here in Niagara now. How has it felt coming down into the region and the community support, the new facility, or anything else really catch your eye as far as this being the right opportunity for you to get going in Niagara and wanting to invest here?
The support from everybody has been overwhelming. It's been a lot more than what I anticipated. All the mayors from the whole region have reached out to me, the chamber here in St. Catharines, the facility here, ASM, everyone's just been a lot better than, what I expected.
And many moves were made during the offseason, a record amount actually. You brought in many players from a lot of playoff teams and the depth of the organization, restocking the shelves as far as draft picks. Just how important was it for you to make an immediate impact as a competitive team right away and kind of put your stamp on how you want this franchise and team to look?
I think once again with this facility and the fan support in the region, there's no need to ever be in a rebuild here. You can't control how good the other teams are, but I think we've put a very good product on the ice. There were some things that, we thought was lacking to be competitive, and we're hopeful that we brought that in.
And what was it about this staff that you brought in from the 99ers, more specifically Coach Daniel Fitzgerald, that gives you trust that they will be able to kind of take that next step in their coaching and management careers and successfully kind of build the IceDogs to the OHL level and the standard that you want to set here?
So they're eager. They're all in. They've been putting in a tremendous amount of hours. Their heart and soul into it. They're high character people. It's very important, I think, to rebuild, a little bit of the tarnished reputation that was left. And it's important for me that they treat the fans, the facility, the region with respect that it deserves.
And you've said in the past, and even tonight at the event here for the Chamber of Commerce, that it's important to kind of lean on good and smart people for these positions. Just how important was that for you to kind of make sure that you're putting these people in places that they can succeed, but also bringing in people that you really trust and that will get the job done?
That's very important. I mean, in any business, whether you look at this as a business or a sport, whatever you do, you bring in people that you can trust. I can't micromanage them. They have to do their own show, but you also bring in people that are qualified that can do the job. You don't bring in the nicest guy in the world because he's the nicest guy. He still has to be able to do the job. So Coach Daniel and Damon and Andrew and Brandon, they're all, Jason Barron, they're all just very good hockey people that are very good people as well. So it's a perfect scenario.
And you recently named the Brantford 99ers as your affiliate team. How do you think that will kind of help you from a strategic standpoint, developmental standpoint, to have that familiarity in the pipeline to try to develop the best organization you can from top to bottom?
So we've already put 3 players there that are signed with the IceDogs. They need to play a lot to be ready for this level. It's quite a jump. The OHL is quite a jump from the OJ or the Junior B League. May not be that much of an impact this year, but next year with the draft, we're going to, try to place a little more local players that we can put in Junior A or Junior B to get them ready to play at this level, because it is quite a jump.
Right, and I think the misconception is that Brantford's the only team that you're going to be sending players to. Do you see yourself kind of using not just the 99ers, but putting players where they can succeed? It's not just going to be, hey, you're going to be assigned to Brantford. You want to put them in with other teams and other leagues to make them the most successful as well. Absolutely.
There's some very good organizations around here. I mean, Scotty Barnes and Thorold runs a great program. Dave out in Welland is a former D1 coach. So there's a lot of good talent right here. It's just, we think that by having a few players in Brantford and then sprinkle a few out around here as well, we can't have all of our draft choices in Brantford. Right. So,
okay.
We are going to need to lean on other communities.
And then looking ahead to the season now, with it starting on Thursday, everybody's really excited with all the moves that you've done in the offseason. Just how excited are you to finally play in some meaningful games when the regular season starts? And, again, proving that the growing pains that this team has been through the last couple of years won't define them, and they're going to come through hopefully competing for and contending for the playoffs and, the OHL championship at some point soon.
I think we're going to have a very good product on the ice. It's going to take a little bit of time to gel because there are a lot of new faces there. We start the season with 2 very top teams, Mississauga and Flint. They're both nationally ranked right now. So, it doesn't start off easy for us, but it's 68 games long, and I'm very confident that we'll be in the playoffs this year.
And then you've also set yourself up very well for the future with a lot of the moves that you've made, acquiring future draft picks. So how do you kind of balance that out with knowing you have the draft capital to go out and make some trades, but also knowing that you've set yourself up for the future of this team as well, and kind of trying to balance that out?
So we need to always draft well, and we always need to have a few players that can jump in right as 16-year-olds. We also need to have a few players that can develop in other junior towns, but then we also need to, you don't know where you're going to be until you're 40 games in. So if we're 30, 40 games in and we're like, hey, we can do it here, and now we just empty the shelf and go get somebody because. You got to see where you are. So 30, 40 games in, we'll see where we are. But I think we've got a good inventory, and we got a good amount of players that we can acquire somebody if need be.
And lastly, just two quick things about. You made the move for Joey Costanza, moving him to Windsor today. Was that just a product of Flores and Rosenzweig and the competitiveness of this whole team being very, very good and having that great competition throughout up and down the lineup, that some hard decisions were going to have to be made about some players on this team?
That was a very tough one. I mean, he's an 05. Rosie and Flores are, 04 and 03s. Joey is an exceptional goalie, and he will be a very good goalie. I felt that, first year in the league for me, first year as a new owner, and we needed to turn it around quickly. So Joey will develop into, and he already is, a very good goalie. But, we wanted to go with a couple of older guys that we felt, could give us instant success. Let's put it that way.
And last question, I know you quickly mentioned it, that Niagara will be aggressive in wanting to place a bid for the Memorial Cup going into the future when it does come back to Ontario. Just kind of what is your thoughts on doing that so early and trying to instill that already before you've kind of seen the team go at it? It's kind of what's your thought process there in wanting to have such a big impact right off the bat?
So one of the reasons why we wanted to do it right off the bat was to show the fan base that we're in. We're all in. We're committed to this region. We're committed to this facility. If you look at this facility, there should be no other facility in Ontario that can host it like we can. We just saw the Canada Games, how well that was done. We got the National Rowing Championship coming up. So we know we can do it. One of the big things was we have to be competitive. So if we finish in 20th place this year again, they won't give us the Memorial Cup. So that's another reason why we had to make all the moves that we had to make right now to try to be competitive right from the start.
The general manager and the owner of the Niagara IceDogs, Mr. Darren DeDobbelaer, thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to kind of meet with us and kind of give us your preseason thoughts as we get really excited for the start of the regular season for the Niagara IceDogs.
I appreciate you having me here today. Thank you.
And that's going to be it for today's interview on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.